Morning, everyone. I just wanted to welcome you to this morning, where this month, March, is Spiritual Wellness Month. And as a result, we're joined today by Esley Wright and Coral Gonzalez-Taylor. They're both going to talk about different aspects of spiritual wellness. Lee is going to talk about Feng Shui for yourself, your home and your office. And also Coral is going to touch a little bit about spiritual awareness to do with essential oils. So without further ado, I will hand you over to Lee. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine. Can everybody hear me okay? Excellent. So I am excited to be here and to share with you guys some basics about Feng Shui. So I'm going to share my screen to do a presentation for you. Yeah, great. So as Lorraine just shared, this is a spiritual wellness month. And what I'm going to share with you is some basics about Feng Shui and interior design. I'm Esley Wright, and I call myself a holistic interior designer because I combine classic interior design with Feng Shui, which is an ancient art and science of the mindful arrangement of your space. I, of course, combine this with a whole bunch of different holistic modalities to create my own secret sauce of a kind of spiritual approach to interior design, your home and the spaces that you live in, sleep in, and work in a way to make sure that you are balanced and your well-being is really taken care of. So I'm going to share with you, because I know I don't have huge amounts of time, to give you an overview of Feng Shui, because it's really, for me, something that's super important to just have a little bit of a foundation of what it is that this thing that everybody talks about, Feng Shui, is about. And Feng Shui has been around for over 2,000 years. It is an ancient practice that was taught down verbally only by men back in the day, Feng Shui practitioners. And it really originated before organized religion was around. So it was not a religion, but kind of a form of a traditional belief system. And they really started it because they wanted to figure out where they were going to place their graves in a way that was going to be safe, honoring, and healthy. So it's kind of interesting to know that the very, very, very first Feng Shui practitioners were actually using it to place their gravestones. But then it actually evolved to figuring out where you were going to build your house, your hut on the side of the mountain, to make sure that it got the right amount of sun, it didn't have a mudslide, that it was in the correct arrangement for your health and safety. So it has evolved a great deal over the years. And we are now really, really lucky to be able to talk about this in the West, because that's a fairly new phenomenon, that it became something that women could transmit, and that it was allowed to go from the East to the West. But Feng Shui in general is about setting your intentions for your space. So we often live in our houses in a way that's kind of automatic. It's just there. We live in such a crazy, modern, busy time. Things are often done for us, or we're just doing things without thinking about it. And Feng Shui's secret is really about changing that dynamic and allowing yourself to be intentional about your space, really thinking about what you want your space to be for you. And Feng Shui is two words. The literal translation is wind and water. And that is a really great insight to what Feng Shui is about. It's about making sure that you manage the elements around you. It is very much in connection with nature. Another thing our modern society is really good at ignoring, right? And we want to not ignore it. Our health, our well-being, our soul connection with the planet is there, and we need to make sure that we have it in balance and we honor it. And Feng Shui is really a way of doing that. You're honoring the connection that you have with your space as part of the greater whole. And another one of the secrets in Feng Shui, which is something that the Western mind doesn't really understand a whole bunch of, is the Yin and Yang Theory. And that is a combination of lightness and the dark. You can't have one without the other. So the Yin Yang Theory is about a balancing act. It is the sun and the moon. It is wet versus dry. It is feminine and masculine. So this is always a Feng Shui balancing act that happens throughout the design of your space, the thinking of your environment, and the thinking of your life. And another one of the main secrets in Feng Shui is about the commanding position. Always putting yourself in a position of control, making sure that your back is covered, like the screen behind me, to make sure that someone can't sneak up on you on the back. And it really comes down to safety, feeling secure, but on a guttural level, on a really subconscious level. We don't think about this because we are very cerebral today, especially in the modern world, that we are a little bit less grounded in our body. And I'm really looking forward to the aromatherapy discussion that we're going to have in a little while to try to get us back into our body. And Feng Shui's intention is to also help you physically figure out how to place yourself in your spaces versus just floating around in them, because everything is energy. We are all interconnected, whether we want to believe it or not. It is, it's a fact. Everything is energy. We are connected with our spaces. Our spaces are connected with us, and your space is a reflection of who you are. Whether or not you want to believe that or not, it is an opportunity to have a blank canvas to create the life that you want, to represent yourself the way that you want. And if you take a moment now and you look around your space, it is who you are in this moment. It's how you're showing up. So I love Feng Shui as an opportunity to give us a chance to recreate our lives the way that we want to show up, because there is this interconnection. And Feng Shui is a school of thought. It's a philosophy, similar to Buddhism, which is not a religion, but really a way of thinking. That's how I feel about Feng Shui. And it is very much taught from different perspectives. So we have the form school, the compass school, the flying star, the 8 directions. There are lots of different ways of approaching this philosophy. And I have studied the BTB, which is the Black Sect Tantric Buddhist approach to Feng Shui, because I was very lucky to have Feng Shui introduced to me by a grand master in New York City. Professor Thomas Lin Yun was this little old Chinese guy, and he was so cute, and he was really great. And I can't even believe that I didn't even know what I had stumbled onto when I met him. And I was able to study under him for 3 years, him and his major disciples. And he was one of the first Feng Shui practitioners from the East to the West. He was a consultant to the United Nations and to an awful lot of heads of countries. He was an incredible man, and he really changed the way that Feng Shui was done in a way that the Western mind can get their head around. Because if you have something that is done in a cultural way that doesn't reflect who you are, you don't really understand their symbols or the meaning behind things, it's difficult to get your head around and to support it. And so he really approached Feng Shui in a way that we as Western people can understand it. And it is about really recognizing and helping the Western mind get their head around what energy means, because it's really not something that you talk about. I know I was never introduced to this way of thinking. And so the BTB is really about the commanding position and reading the energy of your space and changing it so it supports you. And the number one tool is called the Bagua. And the Bagua really is about the entry of energy into your space, mainly through a front door. And this will create a roadmap of how you look at your space. So Feng Shui, this art and science of arranging your space, you kind of get the overall concept of that. You know that you want your space to be arranged well. You know that you want it to be doing something good for you. And it is not at all just about making it a pretty space. That is not what Feng Shui is about. Of course, being pretty helps, but that's not the fundamental approach for what it is. And the Bagua is really the tool, the main tool about telling you the 9 areas. You place it over your floor plan, and it will show you what the 9 areas of your life are, so you can start to individually chunk it down so you can arrange the space, your overall space, in a very mindful way. And here is an example of what the Fogua Map looks like. And as you see, it is in 9 different spaces, with the center being the Tai Chi. We were talking about the Yin Yang. That's the Yin Yang symbol, which is about the lightness and the darkness. As you can see in the white, which is the Yin, you've got a little bit of Yang in it, and the dark is the Yang and has a little bit of Yin. So that's all about balance, and balance is typically about health. And then if you go below that, which is career, that is the entry point. Where we've got the entry, that is where the chi comes into the space, and it needs to go on that level. So when you think about placing a map on your floor plan, this is a map and it gets laid over your floor plan. That needs to be done of where your front door is. I'm going to show you a few examples. But as you can see here, there are 9 main areas of your life. Looking at your life in a holistic way, which is something I've been doing for a really long time, because in the West, we often have career as taking up 90% of our life. And there are a lot of other things, as you can see, that are super important to put your energy focus on for your overall well-being. Spirituality is one of them. Family, money, fame, which is really about recognition in the way that the world looks at you. Your relationships, love relationship being one of them, but all your relationships. Creativity and children and the completion of cycles. And then talking about benefactors and the traveling and showing up in the world. So the Bagua is a map of your whole life, and it's looked at on floor plans. And so here is just a way that I actually put into real ways of seeing what these different 9 areas of your life could be and how you show up. This was a Bagua map that I created a few years back for myself, to give myself a motivation, kind of like a vision board for the year of the 9 areas of my life of what I was looking to enhance. Here is an example of a room that I did for a client. It was her office. And so just sharing with you briefly to give you an overview of Feng Shui and how you would use it in this particular moment is to show you one room, because the Bagua can be done on multiple scales. It can be done on a room, it can be done on a house, it can be done on a city, right? But here is a room. You can see the layout. You can see where the arrow is the mouth of Qi. So that's the layout that we decided that was going to be the perfect layout for her new office. And as you can see in the lower right-hand corner, how it's broken up into the areas that are the 9 areas of the Bagua. It's pretty simple when you think of it this way. And you can see that the abundance is in the upper left-hand corner. If you look at what that is with the furniture, you can see it's where her lounge chair is. It's where the floor lamp is. It's where the bookcase in the upper corner is. So you get the idea of how you could actually place the Bagua. The layout of it is really based on where the mouth of Qi is, where the door is. Here is another floor plan that I wanted to show you to just demonstrate how this type of thing would be done on an overall floor plan of a house. And this was a client that I did a Feng Shui consultation for that was in regards to her whole house. And so some of the floor plans are different scales, and that for me doesn't matter as a Feng Shui consultant for you. I can work with you on any level. So this is just a floor plan of a very large house. And you can see the number like on the far left-hand side, 34, that's 34 feet. And you can see where the closet and the bedroom, living room is. But what you can see is how I put the 9 different areas: abundance and wealth, fame and passion, relationships, and you put on this. So you can see how the entire house get situated with it. Of course, it gets a little bit more complicated because you can see that there's some missing pieces, right? Not every floor plan is going to be a perfect square, and that gets into a little bit more complicated that we'll talk about how to deal with that a little bit later. As you can see with my notes here, I have different enhancements and cures to balance your overall space. And last but not least, here was a quick sketch of another apartment that I did a Feng Shui consultation, and you can see my notes, right, on the things that I was thinking about when I was talking. A lot of my Feng Shui consultations are done live. I'm with people in the moment, so they're a little bit less beautiful than if I was thinking about doing a presentation, but to me, it's the result. So we're talking about what needs to be done. And something that is super important, and I'm going to back up just to say this. Here, you have the Bagua, you have 9 areas of your life. You want a really great life, I know you do. But there is no way that you can put your intention and your energy on all 9 areas at the same time. It's impossible. It means you're watering down your intention. So you're going to have to find 1, 2, maybe 3 areas that need enhancing. And if you look at your house, if you look at your home and you put the Bagua on it, you're going to see the areas that need the most help. And that's going to be a reflection of that specific area in your life. Whether or not it's going to be the clutter that's showing up in your relationship area, or it's going to be the plumbing problem that's showing up in your abundance area, you're going to be able to see that there's an interconnection with the areas of your life that you need to focus on. But don't think that you can focus on all the areas at the same time. You can't. You're going to have to think, okay, I need to focus on my career. That would be the area of your home in the Bagua that you would work at. I'm going to also say that Feng Shui is a multi-layered, quite complex art and science. And though I have been practicing now for close to 20 years, I still feel like I'm actually learning it. But one of the things that really resonated with me is the fact that Feng Shui is also about the balancing of the 5 elements. And you really need to take that into consideration with the way that things are interconnected, and the 5 elements can be balanced in your space through colors and shapes and materials. But just keep that in the back of the mind. Feng Shui is about making sure that there's a balance and harmony that is related to the 5 elements, which is just basically being connected to nature. And they have a balancing that brings you in a generating order where things create each other, create energy. And then just like nature is so good at doing, we have a transforming or a decreasing cycle, because everything needs to grow, but everything also needs to die. It's a cycle of the way that life goes. And so an energy does the same thing. It's like the 4 seasons. Some of them are growing and some of them are dying, so it can rejuvenate. And that really needs to be something that's a seed in the back of your mind about Feng Shui. And I just want to share with you a few pictures. I don't want to take up all the time that we've got, but you know, the juicy kind of fun part about Feng Shui is how you can, in your home, once you figure out the areas that need to be enhanced, once you recognize 1 of the 9 areas or 2 of the 9 areas in your home that need to be worked on, or you know that you need to be bringing in more money. And so you're going to figure out, how am I going to make that area of my home nice besides getting rid of the clutter, right? So I'm just going to show you a few examples of things that I did for clients over the years that were enhancements for their specific home. So you can use paint or artwork. These were stenciled onto the wall in a room to bring some energy into it. Obviously, you can use plants as a way of bringing in energy. And these are representative of some of the 5 elements, and they can bring the life force in to specific areas of your life. For example, if you wanted to enhance your money corner, you might think about actually having some plants and make sure that they don't die in it. You can use light. Light is another really great way of enhancing it. This particular light fixture was brought into a dark area of the house that was in their money gua. And so we picked this fantastic light to bring in some sparkle that really did actually help this client a lot. You can also use your furniture and paint colors and pillows and that kind of thing. So if you wanted to bring a specific color or specific energy into a space, or a plant, flowers. Obviously, cats and animals have a very deep and strong impact on the feng shui of your house. That was Cristal, the cat that I moved to Spain with years ago, and that was in my apartment in New York. And Cristal was gotten as a feng shui enhancement for my life back in those early years when I was first there, and I needed to bring some life force into my home because I was recently divorced and I needed to actually have some energy in the home. And she really helped. Here is another opportunity to think about, your spaces in your design. Like this is a kitchen. And we ended up recognizing that this client needed to have a whole bunch of more metal brought into their life. And you can see that we ended up putting in this fantastic overhead vent to go over their island hood or their cooktop in order to bring in the metal element, which was all about recognition. It was about making sure that there was some reflection and that the fire was in a safe zone. And decoration in general, whether it's going to be with color or shapes, are all going to be really important when you're thinking about the balancing of the feng shui. And bathrooms are really important spaces in your house from a feng shui perspective. There's a lot of controversy and information that's out there about saying that bathrooms are dangerous spaces and that water is complicated. But you have to understand, thousands and thousands of years ago, there was no such thing as indoor plumbing. So this is a myth buster. If you ever hear that bathrooms are bad feng shui, that's not true. I would personally say that indoor plumbing is like magnificent and I completely love it. You just have to be careful because water as an element can be very dangerous if it is not kept tamed, right? You know that a rock can get completely destroyed by the gentle dripping of water over time. And water is very changeable. So there's, a tsunami or a tidal wave is a very different thing than having a small pond, right? So you just have to be aware in your bathrooms from a feng shui perspective to not let any leaks or water problems ever go on because they will end up being reflected negatively in the feng shui of your life. And here is a wallpaper that was used to enhance this particular feng shui for this client, along with this plant. You can use hardware to bring in different energy. You can use mirrors. Mirrors are really important in feng shui because they have multiple energy sources. So they can be a reflection of something that you want to enhance and bring more of. They also are great for extensions. So, when we looked at the floor plans and there were areas that were missing, if you put a mirror on it, it extends out to that. We call those feng shui cures. I like to call them feng shui enhancements because I'm all about the enrichment of our wellness and not necessarily the cure because it makes us think of disease. So I like to use language in a very purposeful way. So mirrors are a really great way of enhancing that area. So feng shui, it is a blank slate. You have an opportunity to really think about your health and your well-being and know that your space can and should be supporting your health. And if your health is in any way a problem, look at your space and start focusing on those areas to clean it up, clear it up. You can use space clearing. You can use feng shui, color. There's a lot of different things, and I'm here to help if you have a specific problem. But I'm hoping that you did get some information in regards to what you wanted to understand a little bit about feng shui. And I wanted to stop sharing. Have I stopped sharing my screen? Yeah. So to give you just that overview of what feng shui is about and how important it is for your wellness and your well-being, and how it is clearly a reflection of who you are and who you want to be. So I try to blog about this on a regular basis on my blog, changeyourspace.info. But I'm always here if you have a question to this group or have a specific problem. And I don't know, maybe we'll do a little bit more floor plan reading to give people real examples in the future when we have more time. But I hope that was useful.
Thank you, Lee. That was fantastic. I didn't realize there was so much involved. The history side of it, I actually found very interesting as well. So you can see where everything comes from and how it's evolved into what it is today, actually.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking about thinking about in my house when you were looking at the floor plans. Mine is kind of quite open plan, in as much as the lounge, hallway and dining area is open plan, and I've got 3 sides of windows there that all look out onto the terrace and into the garden. So yeah, it's kind of thinking about how to organize that space. I did recently change the layout of the lounge, and it actually made a huge difference. So yeah, so it's amazing what things can do.
When I started studying Feng Shui and a lot of these holistic modalities 25 years ago, I couldn't believe, I kind of thought it was smoke and mirrors, a bit of woo-woo, a bit of like, there's no way this stuff really works. And I can say 25 years later, not only has it worked like crazy for my own life, but I have seen it time and time and time again work for my clients. So when someone says, really, can you change your life by moving your sofa? Yes, you can. It's crazy. I know it's crazy.
Yep, that's exactly what I did move. I had my sofa as an extension of when the hallway became open plan. So now that I look at it, it was actually a blockage. It was not allowing me to breathe in the same way. So now I feel like I walk in and it's like this feeling.
Yeah, it's fascinating because it is about the circulation. Like I say that if I'm talking to someone from an architectural perspective, it's about the circulation where you're walking and health and safety. From an energy perspective, it's the same thing. How is the energy going to flow through the space? And if it gets stuck, it gets clogged. And we know what stagnant energy is like stagnant anything. It isn't good, right?
And now there's no blockage, there's clear access to the door, the entrance.
Be careful, we don't want too much energy going out of the house.
Out of the door, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, the best energy is a kind of flowing energy. She said. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that. If you've got some information about how people can contact you, you can drop them in the comments, Lee. That would be fantastic.
I will.
Thank you. And now we turn to Coral, who is, amongst other things, an aromatherapist, and she's going to talk about some of the different oils that she uses and how they can benefit you in wellness and in your spiritual wellness, and just have a bit of a conversation. So if there are any questions afterwards, then please do pop them in the chat, and then Coral can always answer the questions later, as can Lee.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Coral.
Thanks, Lorraine. Hi, everyone. So yeah, essential oils are very powerful plant material. They come from resins, from flowers, leaves, wood, and they work in every system of the body. But one of those systems is the mind as well. So we have to ask ourselves what spirituality, because I can't say that word very well, is to us, because it is something different to all of us. So to some people is looking within, time to look within and kind of ask ourselves what we want in life, maybe, looking for our spiritual, to get in touch with the higher self, higher consciousness, the God within. We are all God, really. We are all energy. We're all nature. So prayer, praying. I always think of frankincense and myrrh, you know, being burnt in Catholic churches, and for clearance of evil spirits, or for meditation, for prayer. So it's all about natural forces, really, and that's what essential oils ultimately are. They also have frequency like we do. So spirituality and mind is basically one, or that's what I believe, you know, and although there are many spiritual options. So people, they say that people that have a spiritual base, they have a grounding as well. So they're quite grounded people, you know, and this is what a lot of people are looking for. I find nowadays, you know, they need grounding, especially with everything that's happening right now. You know, we are a lot in our heads, so we like, you know, too much batter, they would say in Ayurvedic medicine. So, and we need to kind of put our roots back down on the ground, you know, and kind of ground ourselves. So they call it the Shen, the spirit, the psyche, you know, so emotional, mental, and spiritual aspects of human beings. Okay. So when the spirit is, well, the spirit basically is expressed in many emotions. So we have joy, compassion, you know, so we can, you know, we completely change when these emotions are affecting us, you know, when we're down as well. So if the health of the spirit is affected by stress, which, you know, modern day life, we have a lot of right now, there's a knock-on effect on mental and physical health as well. So it's really important to keep that mental wellness at balance, you know, I would say. So the health of the spirit is vital, it's essential, it's very, very important. So essential oils, basically they work almost immediately through inhalation, you know. Diffusing an essential oil is probably the best way to receive the essential oil, as it goes through our nostrils into our limbic system and an area called the amygdala. They affect our past emotions, our present emotions as well. And they have the ability to go through that blood-brain barrier as well, some of them, you know, like essential oils high in sesquiterpenes, which is a chemical they have. And this is why they're actually more effective than synthetic medicine in some ways, you know. So they can uplift us, they can ground us, they can give us clarity, they can allow us to, they can sedate us in order for us to kind of block anything. A lot of people use it in meditation, for instance. They've been used for since ancient times. In the Bible, for instance, it's mentioned so many times. You know, they have a range of lotions. I actually have a set which is called the oils of the Bible. There are 10 essential oils, and they are Bible oils. You know, we've all heard of frankincense and myrrh given to baby Jesus. Myrrh, for instance, was used in back in the days, I don't know when, for ensuring when babies were born to be used in the umbilical cord, you know, in order for them to make sure they didn't get any past, what do you call it? Generation curses, basically. They didn't, you know, so to avoid any curses from past generations, you know. So so yeah, I mean, Chinese used essential oils for medicine, for the Shen, for the spirit, spiritual essence, and to govern consciousness as well. In Ayurveda, they use essential oils to enhance prana as well. to nourish the hojas, which is the immune system, the immune essence as well. Brighten tejas, which is mental luminosity. And also as pharmaceuticals, you know, they use it as medicine as well. So really, I wanted to give you a little bit of information on what oils you can use for different things. And the oils of the Bibles, basically, it's they have they call it PMS. They have chemicals, phenols, which clean our receptor sites, you know, especially in our brain. Sesquiterpenes, which deprogram bad information. We can all have bad information in our cells. And monoterpenes, which reprogram correct information. Okay, so, and maybe that has a link also with, you know, I wouldn't like to say negative thinking, but not feeling good, feeling depressed, feeling down, emotional, etc. Okay. Now, when inhaling and diffusing oils, I mean, for me, the best way of using oils is diffusion. Also, massage is very nice, but through using a diffuser at home, you can feel the effects quite rapidly. In fact, when I first studied aromatherapy, I was shown frankincense, which is actually my favorite oil of all times. And I didn't have it at the time. I didn't have many oils. And a colleague of mine, a friend of mine, let me have a drop of her frankincense, which I have here. And when you actually inhale it, you have this effect of elevation in your mind. You can actually feel it quite quickly, and it actually takes only just 6 seconds, you know. It's also very good for beauty and wrinkles, but, you know, they have many uses. Now, I'm going to, let you know of a few grounding oils, like cedarwood, for instance, is amazing, very high in sesquiterpenes, but amazing for grounding, but also clearing the mind, you know, and focus, clarity and focus. Myrrh is amazing for grounding, and so is vetiver. Vetiver blended with Yang Yang is a beautiful mix as well for grounding. And sandalwood, of course, is very powerful. For expressing gratitude, it's actually quite nice to use essential oils as well. It gives you that feeling. Bergamot and is really good for that. Grapefruit, more the citrus oils, you know, I guess maybe because they are uplifting, it gives you a little bit of joy as well. Liang Liang, neroli and orange are very good to use as well. For enlightenment, cypress. Cypress was actually used for cleaning negative energy. You know, it was burnt. It is used to clean negative energy. I don't know whether you guys have in Spain. We burn a lot of rosemary as well for negative spirits in the home. You know. But we've also heard about sage and Palo Santo, you know, in order to eliminate negative energy as well, and cleanliness, which is another word I can't say. So for enlightenment, Palo Santo again, frankincense is very good, and sandalwood. Coping with grief is something that, you know, always reminds me. It's for me spiritual as well. And I have used sandalwood for this in the past, actually, and it's worked very well in a blend of sandalwood, frankincense, and neroli, which are quite comforting oils, you know, and they kind of hug you, you know. That's how I would describe them. And to help you with your spirituality, you know, when you're meditating, you can always diffuse. Bay laurel is fantastic. as well as cinnamon, which has been around as one of the oldest spices in the world, basically cinnamon and cassia, which is actually mentioned in the Bible. Ginger is very good for spirituality, but also lavender, you know, and myrtle. So, yeah, there's quite a lot of information. I wish I had done a little bit of some slides actually, but of course, any questions, I'm always here as well, you know. So the 10 oils of the Bible, basically, I have an amazing book that I would recommend anybody that's interested in these oils, and it's called The Healing Oils of the Bible. And they mention oils of joy and oils of heaven, you know, and obviously they're references as well, but it's got so much information and it's very, very powerful. And I actually read this a couple of years ago, and I need to get back to reading it again, because obviously there's so much that you can take at one go, but there's so much more in there, you know. But definitely a fantastic book. Now, the 10 oils of the Bible is sandalwood. Okay, so this awakens the energy force during meditation and frees souls of deceased as well. So it's been used in the past when somebody passes over to free their soul. Cassia, which I mentioned earlier, it was Moses' holy anointing oil. Cedarwood, and if you just inhale it, basically it enables you to think clearly and enhances awareness. Cedarwood is very special. It's again one of my favorite oils there. Cypress is really beneficial emotionally as well. Frankincense is known as the all cure. You know, if in doubt, you use frankincense, and frankincense does a lot for the mind and our emotions as well. We have hyssop, which is spiritually cleansing, and it helps focus the mind in meditation. We have myrrh, which I mentioned earlier, to avoid any curses of past generations. Myrtle, which had been used for religious ceremonies, purification and cleanliness. Rose of Sharon, sisters, I hadn't heard of before until I bought these 10 oils of the Bible, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's a sweet smell, but it kind of elevates you. You know, it just kind of makes you feel back together again, and really calms the nerves as well. And then you have onycha, which is comforting, soothing, uplifting to the soul as well. So all these oils, all these 10 oils are part of the oils of the Bible, which is mentioned many, many times I mean, I'm not religious. I believe more in nature, but they're quite powerful. And obviously, natural medicine have been used since ancient times. I mean, they were used for anointing the body, for medication, for bathing in, for perfume. So always, although not always diffused or burned, as you using it on your body and as a perfume, you constantly having an influence on your emotions and your mental well-being all the time, you know. So yeah, that's it for me. I mean, I do a therapy called the Raindrop Technique, and one of the recipes is with the 10 oils of the Bible, and it's a longevity recipe. Basically, the sesquiterpenes, the misinformation really in cells really means cancerous cells. You know, they're cells that are not right, they're not part of who we are. So this is why they call it a longevity recipe, and it contains those phenols, those sesquiterpenes, and the monoterpenes. So you clear you cleanse the receptors, you clear the misinformation, and you reprogram again the cells in the body. So it's an amazing treatment, basically. So yeah.
One of the oils that I use a lot is peppermint. I love that one. I think it just does uplift me. I remember when I was sitting exams, I would put some on a hanky, and just every now and again it just gave me a lift and gave me sort of clarity, I suppose.
Yeah.
So that one for me was really good. You've mentioned oils that are often used for meditation. I'm just thinking at the moment, because a lot of us are working from home at the moment, is there a good oil that you would think would be fantastic to use? Maybe like you did mention cedarwood, but something that you would use in a diffuser or burn it when you're trying to work at home?
Working. Oh my God, I've got a, it's okay. I've got a jumping, as one of these jumping things in my staircase. I've just seen it. I was like, oh, I was wondering where he was. Yeah, I mean, there's several things you can do. I mean, lemon, there's been lemon, just lemon, it's been, it will uplift you. And there's been studies that people do actually work a lot better and make fewer mistakes by just simply using lemon essential oil diffused, you know. All the citrus oils kind of give you a pick me up. So if you're feeling a little bit kind of tired and bit kind of, you know, they'll give you a little bit of pick me up. But if you want focus and clarity, maybe memory as well, you know, because there's a lot of information we're taking in nowadays as well. So basil and rosemary are amazing. Rosemary actually has a chemical reaction on our brain and allows us to retain information better as well. And one thing I discovered recently, which is amazing, cedarwood, again, it not only does it aid clarity, it has the ability to go through that blood-brain barrier. So it oxygenates the brain as soon as it's inhaled, basically. So it's really good actually for people to prevent Alzheimer's, you know, and to kind of stop it as well, and senility, you know. So which I was like, oh wow, okay, that's really amazing, you know, because I didn't know that about cedarwood until the last few days. So yeah.
And also you've mentioned quite a few oils, and you've mentioned diffusers as well. Is there are there differences in diffusers? And also I'll give you two questions at once, you can maybe join them together. Is there a set of oils, like maybe 4 oils, 6 oils, or whatever number of oils that would be good for someone who is just starting out and just wanting to get into oils, doesn't know much about them?
Yeah, there's diffusers. I just know that sometimes I've heard of the past people buying them, and you have to make sure that you get a guarantee, basically. You know, I've had my diffuser for 3 years and I've had no problems with it, but I have heard of other people buying with diffusers, and within 2 or 3 months they've gone. So always make sure you put distilled water in them as well. So especially here in Spain, because there's a lot of cal, a lot of what is it, the white stuff. So, but no, I mean, really gently, it's better diffuser than an oil burner, basically. Okay, that's what I will say. So always better to diffuse it, because those particles go into the air and they do travel into, but when you're oil burning, you're not getting that the same effect, basically. You're burning the oil more. 4 to 6 oils to use. You know, citrus oils are always good to have 1 or 2 at home, definitely. You know, it's nice to clean the air of bacteria and viruses, especially the way things are, you know, how things are at the moment. And cinnamon is very good for that. eucalyptus as well. Rosemary, if you're working on the laptop all the time, rosemary and basil, I definitely recommend. But again, also very important to be able to rest, and something like lavender or liang liang are amazing for kind of winding down as well. Sometimes what I get clients coming to me is at the moment, everybody wants to relax. They need to kind of calm the mind because there's too much going on, So I'm like, everybody wants to just relax. What does that mean? But obviously I get it. It's just constantly, because there's so much we're learning right now. I found that too, over the last year. I did so many courses online, and it was just the laptop, whereas I've always worked outside. And yeah, relaxation. Some people love it or hate it, lavender. What I will say is as well, just be aware of what you're buying. Sometimes essential oils can be adulterated just to make it, longer. So always, if you can do a little test, if they have a tester, kind of drop it onto a piece of paper, make sure it's not greasy. So if it's essential oil, it should evaporate, have a look to make sure it has the botanical name as well. First name capital, second name lowercase. So there's little things that you can do to ensure that the oil that you're getting is therapeutic, because of course, the smell of lavender, if it's synthetic, it's not going to help you calm your mind. It's not going to help you relax. It has to be true lavender in order to do that. And yeah.
Unmute yourself.
Yes, okay, so I'm unmuted. I'm just wondering, Coral, do you have a specific supplier of essential oils that you recommend? Because I don't know of any, and I would really love to know what supplier you use that has a great therapeutic quality essential oil.
Okay, you may have heard of them. I mean, when I first started studying aromatherapy properly, because I've known about aromatherapy for 30 years, but I didn't know about this, adulteration and all this kind of stuff. And obviously, as much as I know now, but I tried quite a few oils on my case studies and found the best results through a company actually, which is American. And I was recommended them by my tutor. Okay. At first I thought, well, there's so many here, why should I go to America to buy them, And I saw the results. I saw this different results I was getting with my case studies. So I used Young Living basically, and they actually do, have you heard of them?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so they do a really nice set, which comes with a diffuser. And if anybody's interested, obviously I'll send them a link. And you can, it's very good value. Basically, you get frankincense in there. You get peppermint. You get lavender. You have lemon. You have one else, and then you have 5 different blends, which are absolutely amazing. In fact, I gave this lady a little bit of one of the blends yesterday. A client of mine, she has a tickling cough and it won't go away. And it's called RCs for the respiratory system. And it has a blend of 8 different oils in there, which are amazing. And this morning she called me and said, could you please order me one, Another blend called Panaway, which is absolutely fantastic for pain. If you have a muscular or a bone pain, it's very good. It's got beads, exactly, it, exactly, it's amazing. Beads is fantastic, it's antivirus, so you can diffuse that in the home. I diffuse it in the clinic, and my clients have been very happy not to wear their masks, basically. So I'm happy about that too. So it's very powerful antiviral. In fact, it's sold out at the beginning of the year when we started getting this. Did you know about it? It's got DJs, which is great for the digestive system as well. Anything digestive, you can either take in. You can you know, take these internally as well, which obviously makes them safe. And you know, panaway and frankincense alone, when you buy them separately with the diffuser, would cost you what the full package costs. So it's really good. And then it comes with a diffuser, which is what I have. It's a basic diffuser. It's fantastic. It hasn't given me any trouble whatsoever. And yeah, it's a great way to start. And you can, you know, it's got purification as well. You can use for, yeah.
Do they have a distribution here in Spain, Coral? Or because I do buy some stuff from a kind of a more grassroots company called Rocky Mountain Oils, a family-run company in Colorado, but it seems really far away. So,
I have heard of them. Yeah, they have obviously, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to get it either. They do have a warehouse in Amsterdam, so yeah.
Right, cool.
So not in Britain.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna private message you about it because I think I'm gonna want to try them. And the history of the thieves, which was, you know, the combination of stuff from the plague, and it smells so amazing. Yeah, I've been thinking of getting that for like a year since COVID, and listening to you has inspired.
It's amazing for the immune system as well, you know. So right now, I mean, if you just put a couple drops under your feet or take it in tea, it's like a chai tea, and it gives a lot of protection, definitely.
Yeah, I put it on a tissue and stick it right here when I'm flying on an airplane, but I've run out.
Yeah, okay, yeah, fantastic, exactly.
Thank you. It's really interesting to see how different people use different essential oils for different things, basically. So they can be used for everything, I'm sure. So it's been really interesting. Thank you. Does anyone, Ali, do you have any questions or anything to say you'd like to?
Only that the other day I was out and picked a piece of rosemary from a bush and then stuck that under my mask and then just walked around with it, and it was fantastic because it, you know, it really made me feel better.
Yeah, I like to do that with cilantro as well. Yeah.
Yeah, the rosemary, ever since I was a little girl, my dad would always pick it and say, and crush it a little bit, you know, and smell this. It's really powerful. It's just so good. Do you use it in your food as well?
Yeah. Lee, just a question for you about houses, because obviously our houses aren't built square, are they? So how do you get around that?
So the Bagua, obviously, as you said, is a square. And so you're going to place the Bagua on the floor plan of your house, and there will be areas that are sticking out, right, that don't fit within the square. And if it is less than 50%, it's called an extension, right? So that's like, okay, that's just an extension of that area. If it's more than 50%, that then you need to actually increase the Bagua to cover it, if that makes any sense. If you do place it and there's a little bit of a missing area, you also want to enhance, that's where you really want to enhance it, because you want to make sure that you're not missing any energy. Sometimes a lot of houses and a lot of apartments are not square. And so you'll have extensions, but the missing areas are kind of the big problem. If you have a big missing area, for example, where your relationships should be. So you're going to want to try to create some enhancements or cures. Mirrors are a fantastic one to make sure that that space gets included in the kind of energetic of it. But it can be complicated to read them. So if anyone has a, you know, a floor plan that's a complicated thing, maybe we can think about doing a a session where I would help you figure out how to do it.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter where north, south, east, and west, because I've heard other people say it does, but.
Yep, that's the Compass School. And that is based on one of the early forms of Feng Shui. And no, the BTB is about where the energy comes in to the property at this point. We do use some things with thinking about the way you set up your bedroom and stuff, but it's much more about the energy that's in that specific space, more than the kind of global north, south, east, west. Because right now we're a little bit more, as Professor Thomas Lanune used to say, we're focusing on our immediate environment. We do recognize that there's a bigger environment, but the ones you really have control over are your immediate. And I like it because you can't change where your front door is very often. So it is what it is. So I'm also a big subscriber in, we can find ways to enhance this. In all the years that I've been practicing, I think there's only been one property that I was really like, wow, the energy was so kind of wacky that I was like, well, you know, I wouldn't really want to say sell your house and move, right? But there's only, in all of the time, there's only been one time that I've ever heard any of my professors ever say that to somebody. And it was very clear that they needed to leave, and they did. They sold the house and left. But for the most part, your house is what it is, and we just need to enhance and strengthen the weak spots.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, ladies. If there's nothing more, we'll let you get on with your day. But thank you so much. That was really interesting. I really enjoyed both sides. Thank you.
Thank you. And Coral, I'm going to reach out to you.
Speak to you soon. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.